name is Jessica Crow, and I'm the founder of Apogee and the host of Change Leader Insights, which is a podcast where we talk about all things change, change leadership, self leadership, leading teams through change, leading organizations through change. I'm so excited to have here with me Mark Green. Thank you so much. Mark Green is the CEO and founder of Change Rebellion. I'm reading this, by the way, obviously. With over 22 years of experience, Mark launched a change management service last year where honesty meets empathy and change management returns to its practical roots to support your workplace transformations. And I am so excited to chat with you. Our first conversation was full of laughs and a lot of fun, which will be maybe the theme of today's conversation. But if you don't mind, can you share with the people that are watching and listening a little bit about yourself? So more about who you are, how you got into change management, what was the motivating factor for you that led to starting Change Rebellion?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, I mean, it started a very long time ago with far less grey hair, and I, I kind of fell into change management. I could have gone
Yeah.
one of two directions. Could have been like the project management world,
Yep.
and I kind of had a look at that. Realized very quickly that wasn't for me. And
Yeah.
then change management was about people, and I was like, well, I get that. It was like something within me that was natural. To
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I can see that.
I want to talk to people. I want to engage with people. I want to get on with people. So, and I started off, as many of us do, in a very small consultancy. I
Hmm.
learnt my trade, and then I kind of went out on my own into the big wide world, and I did that for years. And
Hmm.
tried to mix up and have diversity in terms of clients and
Hmm.
industries and sectors, which I did, luckily. I've absolutely loved it. There's been, obviously, same with everybody, a few rocky roads here and there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on the whole, it's been an amazing journey. And then 3 years ago, without going into any like real detail, something happened that was kind of life changing.
Yeah.
All these near death things, and when I went back to the working world, it was okay, but it had become really boring and mundane and dull. And
I
yeah,
mean, after a near death thing, and then
yeah,
yeah,
well,
you
it
don't
just,
have to go into the details, but wow, you had a moment, and it really did
yeah,
like
yeah,
shift your
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
around what's important, right? I mean, that's been
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, the thing that I think I've always liked to have fun at work anyway. I've
yeah,
always thought it is a place, there's no reason where you can't enjoy yourself. You can be professional and still enjoy yourself.
yeah,
Um, but it was more than that. It was much more deep rooted than that. And it was kind of
yeah,
my career that I'd loved for years, I'd fallen out of love with. And I
yeah,
didn't feel the same way about it. I'm very honest about it. And I'm very honest about how I perceive things, rightly or wrongly.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm finding things really dull, boring, repetitive on LinkedIn and various websites. I tried going back into the perm world and consultancy again, realized that that wasn't quite for me, and no disrespect to them, but not a lot of change in like 20 years. It
yeah,
felt it felt just the same, really. And it was all not looking great. There was no motivation there, no enthusiasm there, no energy there, which is really
yeah,
important. And then, yeah, I started looking at other things that interested me. Things that I didn't work in, sectors I didn't work in,
yeah,
sectors like marketing. People who had great campaigns, people who are engaging, people who
yeah,
sort of, I know there's a whole sort of science around, when you see something visually that you're stimulated and that
yeah,
makes you more likely to engage and all that. And I started
yeah,
looking into all that and I was thinking, wow, this is great. Why can't we do this in change management?
right, right,
Why can't we have fun? Why can't we use different techniques? Why can't we do something that actually makes people feel enthusiastic about what's going on in the workplace rather
yeah,
than, oh no, here's another change?
yeah,
And I think the main thing for me with Rebellion was going against the grain of everything that had been there before. So I didn't want to be, and to a degree, I don't even like the word consultancy. I didn't want to be. Um, it's a change management service.
yeah,
It's specific. We're subject matter experts.
yeah,
We're not generalists. I always view consultancies as being generalists. And yeah, and I wanted to bring something that I know that, as we all do, we know the core elements of change management, what you need to do to be effective. So understanding impact assessments, are they ready? Making sure they're communicated to, all the training.
Hmm.
Yeah, all that stuff we know we have to do, but the wrap around it, in my opinion, has been um, I'm trying to think about saying something without using bad language. It's been I can't. It's been bastardized over the years,
Yeah,
and it
that's
basically, you you look at where change management comes from, and it's from this simple need to make sure people are involved and engaged, so they know what's going on, and then
hmm.
that will make whatever you do in the workplace, transformational wise, much more successful because they'll be on board with it and they'll be engaged. And what's happened is naturally, perfectly naturally, you know, big consultancies and other people have gone, oh, we can earn some money off this, but in order to do so, we need to make it look really complicated and difficult. And
Right.
that's what's happened, in my opinion, over
Yeah.
like certainly the last 20 years. So Change Rebellion's premise is we go, no, we're not doing that anymore. It doesn't have to be that complicated anymore.
Yeah.
We know the essence of what we have to do. We can explain that to anybody. And the way we do it is so much, so, my opinion, so much better because we actually care about people. We actually care about well-being. We actually care about
Good. Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah.
We all know if you're a really good change manager, you end up being like a counselor, a therapist, so, all those kind of things. And it's like, so let's just embrace all that. Let's embrace the human part. And of
Yeah.
course, now what's happened is because the industry was bastardized into this big process mechanism making machine, um, now they're trying to resell it as human-centric change.
That's been a
Change-
buzzword. I've
Yeah.
talked about that myself. Like, how do we get back to that? But I think keep going, keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, in my mind, and again, it's just in my opinion, it always has
It
been human.
always has been. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah, I agree with that
yeah,
100%.
and the only reason is because, and again, I could be wrong, but these large corporations, these large companies have gone, okay, we've sold as much as we can doing it the old way. We need to reinvent it and come up with something new so that we can sell it again. And it's the same principles. And in my mind, that's how I view the world. That's what they've
Yeah.
done. They've
Yeah.
gone,
Yeah.
overcomplicate change management, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it. Right, we've done that. Okay, it's not working. People aren't buying it anymore. What can we do? Let's make it human centric. No, it always was.
And
So,
what, yeah, so it sounds like what you're saying is like the purists who really get it, who've been in it, like yourself, you've always had that anchor and thread that it's about people. It's always been human centric. And what fell out of what many people fell out of touch with was how do we keep it engaging and fun and real
yeah,
and inspiring? And I definitely align with that. I forget where I heard this, but it was something about how if you want to reinforce habits like exercise or something, it has to be fun. Like you have to bring in an element of fun, otherwise the behavior won't stick. So what you're saying absolutely resonates with me. And have you seen good results? So like, you've got clients now, and your pitch, what's your pitch? Like,
yeah,
hey, we're going
yeah,
to do this and it's going to be a blast. And but they're doing like a workforce reduction. Like, how do you make that fun?
yeah. It's funny. I was asked this just this week. So I was asked about some challenging stakeholders and examples of two different types. And one example of some, and I hate labeling people.
Yeah.
The resistance. Because
Oh.
it almost kind of like makes them a particular group, and they're not. They're just people going through something.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
but to answer the question, yeah, I had one challenge where the client was effectively making people redundant.
Hmm.
And the only way that I could make it better in any way, shape, or form, because it's such a serious thing, is to go, this is your last chance to make an impression. This is,
Hmm.
your name's going on this. Long after you've gone, this will be how you will be remembered in this particular instance.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that shifted the mindset. I still wasn't the most popular person in the world when I was talking to them, but it helped them just think, well, actually, I'm going to do a really good job because that could be my last job. So I wanted to do
Yeah.
a really good
A
job.
little bit of legacy. I mean,
Yeah,
for that type of a difficult situation, that is a great way to make a mindset shift of okay, this is the end here. But then they could have just said, okay, screw you, I'm I'm out. But for you
Yeah.
to kind of weave that in there, that's a good example.
And the other example would be, and this has happened 2 or 3 times, and it always makes me laugh because I always see it as a personal challenge, is when you go in and you work with people. And again, I don't want to use the word resistors. They're not, they're just people who've had experience and that's influenced
Hmm.
their opinion of you. And they've gone, I've seen you a million times, or people like you. Why are you different? What are you?
Hmm.
And I really like those people because they're the people that I most enjoy turning around.
Yeah, yeah,
And the way you turn them around is not by talking to them because that's what they're bored of.
yeah,
Again, going back to that, consultancy model where you talk at people and you show them process and you show them how
yeah,
to do things. A lot of them don't want that. A lot of them want to work with you
yeah.
and they want to see what you can do and bring. So, I mean, I had a client a couple of years ago, fantastic. Had that challenge, and that was like, okay, game on, let's go. And like I said, I joined everything, I got involved with everything. I didn't make it a program where I lectured people that that's never called for. I collaborated, I worked with them, and actually they eased and they got more relaxed, and it was like more comfortable in the room. And
Hmm.
today, people are actually asking you to join them because they want
Yeah.
that opinion from a change management perspective.
You
So
showed that you cared and that you wanted to be a part of the conversation versus driving the conversation
yeah,
towards them or at them. Yeah. I mean, that's honestly a secret, not a secret. That is, I think, what sets change management leaders, change leaders apart. And if, someone's new in their practice and they don't understand this piece, they will over time. The relationships, you can know all the process and tools and all of those things that we all have been trained on or consultancies indoctrinate us on, but the real magic comes where the relationship building exists. And I think that is kind of a differentiator, and that's what I'm hearing you say, is that you infused the human-centric element that was already there just by through the natural you
yeah.
know desire to be engaged with these people and be partners with them. So
Yeah,
it
I
makes
think
sense.
it's not difficult. We're all people. We just got to get along. And
Yeah.
there's other things as well. I mean, obviously, change rebellion is very specific and very different because it is very much about the fun. So a couple of examples.
Yeah.
Again, I had to give recently was when you go in as the company rather than just the person. Um, one of the things I really like to see is something like people stepping outside the work environment. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you go on like one of these team building events that companies run every now and again,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of not necessarily the first night, but that second night, that camaraderie where you kind of know everybody, you're all
Mm-hmm.
relaxed, having conversations. It's easy, it's flowing, people feel comfortable. I want to put that into the workplace because
Mm-hmm.
everything run a lot smoother if people
Mm-hmm.
feel relaxed and comfortable to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot around psychological safety there, and I like to try and encourage that so that people feel
Mhm.
relaxed enough and comfortable enough to talk. And then the other thing is I'm not a massive fan of comms plans. Now,
Mhm.
because of my interest when I was bored with change management, I looked at other areas and like I like to draw up like a marketing strategy now,
Mhm.
storyboards, and we plan it out for the lifespan of the program. But it's fun. You get people engaged. You supply enough tea and coffee to sink the Titanic, and lots of cakes, lots of sugar. So yeah. So it's just simple things. Like I
Yeah.
said, you've always got those core elements there you have to do, but the
Yeah.
wraparound does not need to be this corporate mechanism that just
Yeah.
you know, it,
That
yeah.
makes, yeah, I mean, I love that. I'm working with a client right now where they refer to their communication plans as campaigns. And so what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you say is like, how can we get out of that stale, just making it more something that people can connect to and embrace, and bringing some of that marketing element that you were talking about earlier that really you found motivating and inspiring. What would your tips or recommendations be for someone who, I mean, I don't know if this is you're seeing this too. A lot of organizations, even big organizations, have small change management practices, and some of them have the more mature, the more forward thinking, I found they have people that are dedicated to focusing on doing this type of work. But for someone who's by themselves in an organization, or they're working on an HR or a project management team, but their role is change management. How can they bring some fun into the conversation, even though they've got, and they're just by themselves, right? Like, what are some strategies that they could?
So great question, because it was a couple of weeks ago. I was speaking to a group that are on LinkedIn of change people, fellow
Mm-hmm.
change, and that was very much the way this conversation was going. So I have this. I don't know if it's like just my mantra this year, but be the change.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
need to be the change. And one of the tips that I gave them was, if you're in a change management role and you don't think you're being listened to, you don't think it's going well, or you've got some frustrations, just try incrementally, just bring in a little bit of you
Mm-hmm.
into the workplace, whatever that looks like. An example might be, you don't like the way they do comms, so bring a little bit of you into that. Go, well, it might be fun if we tried this. Just
Mm-hmm.
try different things. Just all the time, try and be creative, and
Mm-hmm.
because it makes you happy. It really does. Going through a normal, regular change program or project, if I did it in the old way, I'd become quite bored with it. If
Mm-hmm.
if I feel like I've got a great team around me and we're happy and having fun and enthusiastic, it's a good working environment, they're letting me be creative and bring new things and new ideas. That is the perfect scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice would be to anybody who's struggling on their own, who's not feeling that, just try injecting a little bit of what makes you happy. One guy I know, he really likes sports, so
Yeah.
he's trying to bring in sports elements to what he did, because that made it pleasurable for him. With me, it
Yeah.
was nerdy geek stuff, because I
Yeah.
bring movies, because that's kind of other people. It might be music.
Yeah. Yeah.
You bring all these things that make you you and that you like into the workplace. It doesn't make
Yeah.
you less professional.
Yeah.
Um,
That's true.
so my recommendation is, yeah, be the change.
Yeah, I
That's
like
my
that. That actually makes me think of there was another woman I coached last year, and she had brought in this owl and gave it an acronym and was trying to make it as part of the campaigns that they did, and it went really well. So I know what you're saying can be is true, bringing that piece of you to make it more fun and engaging. I think that's a really good message. What you're talking about, though, too, I sort of noticed an elevated message here. While change management, we can make it fun. What you're sort of getting to, or maybe I'm making assumptions, so feel free to correct me, that organizations that cultivate a culture that is embracing people's uniqueness, that kind of focuses on how do we keep that fun, vibrant energy going, they're more likely to be change forward, right? Be
Yeah,
more innovative because they've got the right culture in place where people feel connected, people feel their well-being is respected and nurtured, and they've got that elevated energy that allows them to be more responsive to change. Am I getting that from what you're saying?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a team that are happy, they're working collaboratively, and there's lots of examples. People can look around, even on LinkedIn, there's lots of examples of companies that just seem to be like, they have this lovely feel to them, lovely vibe in their comments, the way they talk. Um, yeah, if you're in that, those kind of organizations are going to be far more successful in keeping up with the pace of change
Mm-hmm.
than somebody who's regimented and they haven't moved with the times and they don't want to know people's opinions, and it's all decisions are all made at the top. They're not interested in people at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Those, they're going to get stuck in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing that everybody needs to be sort of, you know aware of, is a lot of expectations now. So for people who are going out on their own, whether you're a small consultancy starting out and you're going out as well, there are expectations, and those expectations are from the last 20 years. This is what
Mm-hmm.
change management to deliver. Okay, doesn't really work like that. Well, I've seen this methodology. This is what you should be doing. No, it doesn't really work like that.
Mm-hmm. It's being able
And
to adapt to the times, so to speak.
yeah. So we have to be very. I think all good change managers at the moment, we have to be really aware of that. That's probably what we're walking into, and
Yeah.
then from that, try and make it better. because it can
Yeah.
be.
So give
Um,
ourselves permission to kind of bump into that and be like, okay, and, or yes, and here's how we're thinking about it.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a
absolutely.
really good perspective. Speaking of perspective, kind of coming back to, earlier in the conversation where you had this life-changing moment that helped you reframe how you think about work and why you do work. What role do you think perspective could have in helping organizations shift their culture from being one that is top down, stale, not so innovative, to one that kind of leans more into what we're talking about here today?
It's yeah, that's a really, really interesting question. I think people, it's the same in any organization. It comes down to people.
Hmm.
So you will have somebody at a very senior level with a perception of the world that somebody who works for them won't have that same perception.
Hmm.
And it always baffles me. I was at an event last year and I met this guy and he explained they work in Europe and they have this thing where they bring companies in and they say to the people at the top with this perception of the world, how it should be, where they should be, what do you want? And they tell them over a couple of days on this course, they tell them what they want. And they go,
Hmm.
thank you so much. Now please go away. And then they get everybody who does the job with their perception of the world, and they go, this is what they like. How could you make that work? Would it work? And then all of a sudden they've got power. They feel that empowerment. They make the
Yeah,
decisions. They're gonna fly with that change, whatever it is, because they're taking it themselves. And
yeah,
they're going, and I just thought it was a brilliant thing. I love that. I love that premise. I love that thought of going, okay, leadership, this is your perception as well. Come and tell me what you're thinking. Yeah, okay, you're done. Bye bye. That's
yeah.
it.
Let the people, yeah,
Let go of the reins, and providing it doesn't, cost them money or jeopardize anything or raise risk or anything like that, give it to the people who do the job because they're the ones that know. And I just thought that was tremendous,
yeah.
absolutely tremendous.
That piece of empowerment, yeah, giving people the agency to, and not self-control, agency and autonomy to make decisions that impact them and the rest of the organization. That's a really big part of change too, is giving people some sense of control,
Yeah.
and then they can make it their own and make it fun, hopefully, as well. um, well, what else, what other tips or advice would you give to people who are either they've been doing change management for a long time, or they're seasoned in their career and they want to make a switch, or they're brand new to change management? What advice would you give to
Wow.
them to sort of rethinking, reshaping how they approach change leadership in organizations today?
I'll start with the latter. If it's somebody coming into change management, so I've recently spoken to a young guy. He's just finished university, and he part of his course was change management.
Good,
Um,
yeah.
he was told to give me a call. Somebody crazy recommended. Um, but and I told him how I see the world. And yeah, if you're new, I think the best thing to do, because there's so much, and it's global as well. There's so much demand on what qualification you've got and
Hmm.
what certificate you've got. Actually, what you really, really need is a really good mentor, someone who's been doing
Hmm.
it for years, somebody who understands people and cultures and what change management's all about. And
Hmm.
I've been fortunate enough in my early career to have two or three people that were just incredible, really, really
That
honest
is
with me,
great.
and really helped shape me and my direction. And I would say, yeah, don't get bogged down with everything you read, everything you see. Just find somebody who really, is well respected, knows the industry, and ask them if they'd mind just dedicating a little bit of time every month.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great.
I think that's really powerful. In terms of leadership, change leadership, do you know what? It's I think in this world we've got some people that embrace change and embrace what we do, and then you're always going to have people who don't. As recent as today, I saw a post from someone who doesn't even think there's such a thing as change management.
Oh, I
Thinks it's all,
saw that because I saw
yeah,
your comment. I was like, oh,
thinks
yeah,
it's all made up. Obviously, somebody in the change management world heard him a long time ago. Um, but just, I find it incredible. I think we will always be up against, we've always been up against the same challenges. I don't see anything changing. It's why I find it hilarious because, and everybody does it, and I may even have been guilty at one point of doing it myself, of going, this, towards the end of the year, this is what we envisage for change management for the next.
Hmm.
Do you know what? It's exactly the same as last year and the year before and the year before that. So yeah, I don't get hung up with any of that stuff anymore. I think it's just take your corner, take your little part, and just try and make it the best that you can.
Yeah.
And I've always said, even when I started Change Rebellion, I have no ambition to take over the world. I've no idea. I'm too old to try and be as big as some of these big consultancies. But if I'm a fly in the ointment and people go, actually, we'd rather talk to Change Rebellion, I'd be over the moon with that. I'd be
Yeah.
really happy.
Yeah.
So because it's just a different approach and it's a more people friendly approach is the
Hmm.
best way to put it. I'm more concerned about Change Rebellion building up its reputation than I am about it being a multi-million pound organisation. So, I already get the gratitude that I have for the people that have gone, we like what you say, we like what you do. It always that's wonderful. That to me, in a lot of ways, is what I want. I want people.
Yeah. And I think that's the core of why people get into this practice to begin with, is because we have that desire to connect and build relationship and see those aha moments. And that's what makes what we do so fulfilling. Seeing people feel and think and do things differently and not hate the process to get there. I think that's a big part of what, people do. One thing you said too, though, about that, just kind of coming back to the comment about that we saw on LinkedIn, I kind of like project management or analytics. I think leaders and individual contributors having knowledge and understanding the concepts and the theories and all the frameworks that have been built over the years, even though some of them are very linear and dated. It's useful information to have an appreciation for, having change management skills in
Yeah,
any role it will set people apart and also help them think differently and more strategically about why they, how to. So strategy execution, it all has to go through people in the organization. And so if a leader of a team does not understand that piece, they're going to have a harder time implementing change. At the same time, there has to be people who think about this day in and day out, like you and I, like the other change management leaders, because without that focus, we're going to lose sight of some of the important parts and of empowering and inspiring the individuals who are being impacted by change. But my question for you is there a difference? And maybe this kind of just came to my mind. Is there a difference between a change manager and a change leader? And if so, what do you think it could be?
uh, yeah. I mean, I see. That's a good question. I would imagine it depends very much on where you are. I tend to go with more the change down the change professional route. I think a change manager is somebody who's on the ground doing the job, managing the whatever activity it is in the project or program. A change leader, if you wanted to, because I've had jobs where I've been called either.
Hmm.
Wanted to separate them, you could say that a leader would be above that in a position that actually, leads whatever's going on and represents it and asks people to be engaged with it and, really champions the change. If you wanted to separate it, as I say, I've worked in roles over the years where I've been called one or the other.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I've had some delightful titles.
yeah,
Um, and I think at the end of the day, it's yeah, we are subject matter experts in change
yeah.
management. That is our thing. Regardless of whether you're a lead manager, yeah, or any of the other glorious things I've been called. But I just remembered whilst we were talking, you mentioned about leadership and people starting out and change. So the reason why, so we have a mutual friend, Ron Lehman.
Hmm.
So, so I remembered why I connected with Ron in the very first instance. And it was years and years and years ago. And he wrote, I can't remember what he wrote, but there was one line within his post that said he felt like change management was a calling. That's how I've always felt.
Yeah.
I've never felt like it was a something that I had to pursue. It was, that's my calling. This is what I should be doing in the world. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I was
That's cool.
medically trained. Maybe I'd be a doctor. I don't know, but I like helping people, and change management is my thing. And yeah, it's my calling.
I love that. I feel the same way. I think after years of experience working in different corporate environments, I just saw the opportunity to do things a better way, and do, by implementing change in a better way, it had such a huge impact on people's well-being and stress and love for their work. So maybe it was a calling for me too, wanting to kind of get into this space. But either way, I'm glad we're here together fighting the
Yeah,
good fight, Mark. I loved our conversation today. Thank you so much for making
pleasure.
time to connect with me and be on the podcast. Where can people find you, find Change Rebellion if they're interested in learning more and getting in touch?
Thank you. So, changerebellion.com. Obviously, I have my page on LinkedIn. Come and find me. It's full of weird and wonderful stuff. And the more serious business stuff is on the Change Rebellion page on LinkedIn as
Fantastic.
well. So, whatever tickles your fancy. If you want something a little bit more entertaining, light-hearted, come and look at my page. If you want to know what we're about, go and have a look at the company page.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for making time again, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you. Cheers.